My name is Chun Lu. I'm 31, a single mom and an interior designer. I don't cry easily. But the first time my daughter called another man daddy, the world tilted and my heart shattered. Daddy! Her voice rang through the park like a song I hadn't rehearsed. I turned, half smiling, ready to explain that she must have gotten confused again. But when I saw who she was running toward, my breath caught. It wasn't her biological father. It was Su Ming, my client, the quiet, soft-spoken architect who never asked too many questions. The man who once helped me carry furniture to my car in the rain. The one who always brought my daughter her favorite strawberry milk. And now my daughter had wrapped her little arms around his legs, beaming. He blinked, stunned. Then crouched down, smiled and hugged her back. Not out of obligation. Not awkwardly, but like he'd wanted to. My feet wouldn't move. I felt winded, like someone had knocked the breath out of me without touching me at all. Because for 2 years, I'd raised her alone, taught her not to ask why the other kids had 2 parents. And now here she was, choosing someone else to call daddy. And the strangest part? He didn't correct her. He didn't look at me with confusion or apology. He just looked at her like she belonged there, like he'd been waiting for this moment. And I didn't know whether to run or collapse. Because the man who left me pregnant was now begging to return. And the man my daughter had just chosen didn't even know the real story of how I got here. I remember the night her real father left. I was 6 months pregnant. Swollen feet, stretch marks, glowing cheeks. All the things they say come with joy. But I was alone, sitting on the edge of a bed that still smelled like him, staring at a message that read, "I'm not ready. Don't wait for me." And that was it. No goodbye. No apology. Just silence. He vanished like our love was a typo in his life story, one he could erase without guilt. I promised myself I'd never need a man again. I built a life. One crib. One resume. One late night at a time. And then came Su Ming, a client with too much patience and a voice that sounded like calm. He didn't flirt. Didn't pry. Just noticed things. Like how I skipped meals during back-to-back consultations. How my daughter drew castles in every design draft I sent. How she called his coffee mug magic, and always asked to hold it. He let her. And every time I told myself to keep it professional, he did something that made that impossible. He repaired my broken cabinet without being asked. He bought my daughter a second-hand easel after seeing her doodle on the wall. He stood beside me during a client pitch when my nerves nearly broke me. He never crossed a line. But he stood on it like someone who wanted to be chosen but wouldn't push. Now, my daughter had chosen him. Called him the one word I hadn't heard in years. Daddy. But what if he didn't want that? What if this small, beautiful accident ruined the only safe connection I'd allowed in my life? I was afraid to ask. Afraid he'd walk away too. Until he knocked on my door that night, holding something that made my hands tremble. He stood at my door holding a piece of paper, folded soft around the edges like it had been touched too many times. I didn't know what to expect. An apology for the park? A boundary? A sorry if she made things awkward? Instead he just said, "She gave this to me last week." I didn't know what to do with it. Until now. He placed it in my hand and stepped back. I unfolded it slowly. Crayon lines. Scribbles. Smiles. 3 stick figures. One tall with black hair, him. One short with a pink dress, her. And in the middle, me. Above the drawing, my family. I didn't speak. Couldn't. My eyes stung. "She called me daddy before," he said quietly. At first I thought it was a mistake. That maybe she called all men that. I shook my head. "She's never said that word." Not once. He looked away. His jaw tightened. Like he was fighting something. "Then I must have done something right," he whispered. We stood there, between silence and something bigger than both of us. "She thinks you're hers," I said. He nodded. "And what do you think?" he asked gently. I stared at him. At the man who never tried to save me, but kept showing up like he already had. "I think," I said slowly, You've done more for her than her real father ever did. His eyes softened. Then he surprised me. I'm not here to replace anyone. I just want to be the man who stayed. My knees nearly gave out. Because in a world full of men who leave, he wanted to be the one who didn't. But love for me came with scars and fine print. And the moment I thought maybe, just maybe, this could work, her real father came back. With a lawyer. And custody papers. I hadn't seen him in almost 4 years. And now he stood in my hallway, suit pressed, smile fake, holding papers that made my stomach drop. I've changed, he said. I want to be a father. A father. To the daughter he didn't ask about once. To the child whose birthday he missed, whose first words he never heard. My hand shook as I read the words. Petition for partial custody. Su Ming stood beside me, tense, silent. My daughter was inside watching cartoons, blissfully unaware that the man at the door was a stranger with her blood. I stepped outside and shut the door behind me. You left, I hissed. I was scared, he replied, voice calm. I've grown up. I want to do the right thing. You want credit for a life you abandoned? His eyes flashed. She's still mine. No, I snapped. She's mine. I held her alone, fed her alone, cried through every fever and first step, alone. He didn't flinch. Courts don't care about feelings. Just biology. It hit me like ice. He wasn't here for love. He was here to win. To reclaim something he gave up. Not because he loved her, but because he couldn't stand losing. Later that night I sat with Su Ming on the couch. I told him everything. The silence. The hospital. The nights I almost gave up. He didn't say much. Just held my hand like it was sacred. Finally he asked, if this goes to court, what do you need from me? I looked at him, eyes heavy. I need you to stay. Not as a shield. Not as a title. But as someone she can keep calling daddy without fear. He nodded. I was hoping you'd say that. And then he handed me his file. Legal. Clean. Binding. He wasn't just offering love. He was offering to fight for our family. But what happened in that courtroom shocked even the judge. The judge looked over the rim of her glasses. Is the child present? I stiffened. My daughter was just 4. I didn't want her in that room, under those lights, hearing adults fight over her like property. But my ex insisted. She should speak for herself, he said smugly. And that's when Su Ming stood. Your Honor, he said, voice steady. If she must speak, may I be the one to sit beside her? The judge nodded. He walked out, came back a minute later with my daughter in his arms, her pink backpack still slung on one shoulder, her favorite stuffed rabbit tucked in the other. She looked tiny on the witness seat. They asked her questions gently. Sweetheart, do you know who this man is? She pointed to Su Ming and said, that's Daddy. And do you know this man? She stared at her biological father, then shook her head. Do you like spending time with Daddy? Yes, she said. He fixes my pictures when I mess up. Would you like to keep living with him? She nodded, smiling. He makes my pancakes into stars. The courtroom fell quiet. My ex tried to object, said she was too young to understand. But the judge silenced him. And then she said the words I'll never forget. Biology may give rights. But presence builds family. Su Ming didn't smile. He just reached for my hand gently. Steady. Like he'd always been there and always would be. We left the courtroom with full custody. No appeals. No more threats. That night my daughter sat between us at dinner, drawing another family portrait. 3 stick figures. Her. Me. Su Ming. And this time she added something new above their heads. Forever. Because love isn't who shows up when it's easy. It's who stays when it's hard. Sometimes the man who gave you life leaves so the one who gives you love can finally enter.